Hi, I'm Odellin. I co-signed a $10 million loan for my sister's startup because she said she couldn't do it without me. And then she deleted me from the story, publicly, legally, even in our own family. But what hurts most isn't the betrayal. It's realizing they never planned to include me in the first place. What would you do if your own sister turned you into a silent partner in your own sacrifice? Stick around because it gets worse before it gets even. Before we dive in, what time are you listening and where from? Drop it in the comments. I read them all. The signature that erased me. There's something oddly ceremonial about signing your name on a document that changes everything. The heavy pen, the silence in the room, the weight in your gut. I felt it all the day I co-signed that loan for Raina. She called me in the middle of a quarterly finance meeting. My assistant mouthed, "It's your sister." And I excused myself from the glass-walled conference room with a polite nod. Her voice was shaky, breathless, just like it always got when she wanted something big. "Des, I need you," she said. "The funding's almost there. I just need a cosigner for the bank to finalize the $10 million bridge. They love me, but they need a seasoned fiscal profile." Seasoned fiscal profile. That's what I'd become to her. Nothing more than a resume line and a signature she could leverage. Still, I went. I met her at a little cafe on Congress Avenue, the kind of place that charges $8 for burnt espresso in a glass cup. She looked radiant. Choppy haircut, polished slides in her hands, the word founder typed in bold under her name. She slid the file toward me like it was no big deal. "It's standard," she said, giving me those puppy eyes. "Without this, I lose the entire round. Investors will walk." I read every page, highlighted clauses, asked for a hard copy, had my assistant double-check the risk language. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't signing anything blind. Clause 6.2, I pointed out. "I'm not giving up rights to equity. This is strictly collateral support." She waved it off. "Of course, you're just helping me secure the money. You'll be fully credited, always." She even grabbed my hand and whispered, "There wouldn't be a Kitchley without you." Those words stuck in my head as I signed. Back at my apartment that night, I made a copy of every document, labeled them, filed them. I wasn't worried, but I wasn't naive either. Junia was sprawled across the living room floor working on her math homework. I asked her how school was. She mumbled something about a boy named Caleb and group projects being annoying. Motherhood and sisterhood both seemed to require silent sacrifice. The next few weeks moved fast. Kitchley got funded. Raina's name was suddenly in every startup newsletter. She started wearing all white. Her emails became shorter. No more hearts or love you sis, just sent to legal. Need doc signed, or worse, nothing at all. I chalked it up to stress. Launches are brutal, I know that better than anyone. But the distance kept growing. When I texted to congratulate her after seeing her in TechCrunch, I got no reply. I figured she was busy. A week later, I tried calling, straight to voicemail. I sent a lighthearted, "Don't forget about your boring big sister," on WhatsApp. That message remained unread. I checked her Instagram. Stories were active. Champagne with her COO, brunch with the tribe, rooftop views in LA. I wasn't in any of them. That weekend, I ran into our cousin Brenna at a grocery store in Round Rock. "So proud of Raina," she gushed. "She said she bootstrapped everything from scratch. Can you believe that?" I smiled politely. My heart didn't. When I got home, I sat on the edge of my bed and opened the file cabinet. Pulled out the folder labeled Kitchley Loan 2022, page 9, paragraph 4, subsection C. The co-borrower maintains residual financial and collateral interest in all distributed and retained assets per section 7.1 unless otherwise modified in writing. She hadn't modified anything. She couldn't. I wasn't a ghost. I wasn't invisible. I was on every document. In ink. I tried calling again. Blocked. I texted. Bounced. I even emailed her co-founder to ask if she was okay. The response? "Hi, Odellin. Thanks for your message. All external inquiries should go through our PR team. Best, Mason." PR team? She had a PR team now. That night I couldn't sleep, not because of anger, but because of clarity. She didn't just cut me out socially, she cut me out surgically. I stood in the kitchen staring at my reflection in the microwave. My reflection looked tired, but not weak. I whispered, almost like a vow, "You may have blocked me, but I still exist, in ink. A deleted by design. I spent the next morning with my laptop open, the documents spread across my dining table like silent witnesses. Coffee half finished. My fingers hovered above the keyboard. I wasn't just curious anymore, I was searching for proof. Typing Kitchley plus funding round into the search bar, I braced myself. Maybe she'd mentioned me somewhere, even just a line. Thanks to my sister for believing in me? Something, anything. Instead, the first article was titled, Raina Kraft, the solo force behind Kitchley's $10 million breakthrough. Solo force. I clicked the link. My name wasn't there. I scrolled to the bottom. Nothing. I opened another tab, then another, and another. Every article, every launch newsletter, every media interview was the same, scripted down to the phrase, built from scratch, self-made. No one gave her anything. No one? I opened the investor deck she sent me months ago, the one I wrote, formatted, polished during sleepless nights while Junia slept beside me. It had my fingerprints all over it. But the deck online? New version, sleek, streamlined. Not a single slide had my content. The numbers were mine. The narrative, though, it was hers now, completely rewritten, as if I never existed. Not a deletion by accident, a deletion by design. I closed my eyes. My head ached, but not from fatigue. This was betrayal pressed into a PowerPoint. Around noon, I forced myself out of the apartment. I had promised Junia we'd go to the family barbecue. A part of me hoped it'd feel normal, laughing with cousins, grilling burgers. Just life. When we arrived, Mom was already telling a neighbor about Raina's new press photos. She's a natural, I swear. Look at her posture, like a Kennedy. I tried not to flinch. And can you believe she did it all alone? Not a penny from anyone. That girl built it from the ground up. From the ground up. As if I hadn't signed away a decade's worth of financial stability to get her started. I grabbed a soda and stood near the back fence, letting the spring air cool my face. But I couldn't escape it. She's the real brain of this family, my father added, passing behind me. Always had that flair. Then he turned, smiled gently at me, and said, "And you've always been the responsible one, the quiet one, the responsible one, the background character. I guess every family needs one." That night, back home, I helped Junia with a science project, something about ecosystems and chain reactions. Fitting. One change leads to another. Remove one link, the whole thing collapses. As she packed up her glue sticks, she glanced up at me and asked, "Mom, why do people only see Aunt Raina on TV if you helped her?" That question didn't sting. It sliced. I didn't know how to explain betrayal to a 10-year-old, so I just said, "Sometimes people forget who helped them." She nodded like she understood, even if I knew she couldn't fully yet, but she would. One day. After she went to bed, I returned to my laptop, reopened the original Kitchley loan folder, clicked open the file, Kitchley_loan_2022_full signature.pdf, and I stared at my name, page after page, highlighted lines, initialed corners, proof. I whispered aloud just to hear it. "You deleted me from the story, Raina, but the story still has my signature." The contract. She hoped I'd never read the next morning. I skipped breakfast, pulled my hair into a bun, and opened the encrypted folder I'd labeled Kitchley Legal Overflow. It was tucked away on a separate drive, one I hadn't accessed since tax season. After spending the previous night rereading the loan agreement and staring at my name like it was a scar she tried to peel off, I knew I had to go deeper. Buried in a subfolder titled Follow-up Docs Post-Funding, I spotted a file I didn't recognize. Confirmation_of co-financing_acknowledgement.pdf. I clicked it. The language was a maze, not outright deceitful, just calculated. Phrases like non-claimant status and waiver of material ownership rights were tucked between harmless headers and vague summaries. It took me 3 passes before the meaning set in. If I hadn't signed this document within 30 days of receipt, I could contest it. But if I had signed it, I'd have given up any legal right to the company's intellectual property or equity position. My chest tightened. I searched my email history and found it. An old message from Raina's team. "Hey Des, can you sign this real quick? Just cleanup paperwork, no pressure if you're busy." Sent at 7:42 a.m. on a Tuesday, the same day I was juggling payroll at my firm, making Junia's lunch, and preparing for a 9 a.m. audit call. I remembered it now. I never signed it. I was in the middle of slicing strawberries for Junia's yogurt cup and told myself I'd get back to it later. I never did. Back then, I thought that was careless. Today, I know it saved me. I stood from my desk, the air in the room feeling suddenly different, denser, like I'd walked into a room someone just left in a hurry. I couldn't shake the feeling that the lie had been growing slowly, like mold under wallpaper, and I had only now torn back the edges. "Mom?" I turned. Junia stood in the hallway holding her iPad, one foot nervously rubbing the opposite ankle. Her voice was soft but loaded. "Is it true what Aunt Raina said? That she built Kitchley all by herself?" I froze. There it was, spoken aloud. The PR version of our family history seeping into my child's understanding of the world. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked over, kneeled beside her, and brushed her curls behind her ear. "Not everything," I said carefully. "But sometimes, people forget who helped them." She looked at me, unconvinced. But why would she lie? I didn't know how to explain ego and envy and family politics to a 10-year-old. So I kissed her forehead and said, "Some people are so scared of being small, they erase anyone who made them feel bigger." That night, after Junia had gone to bed, I returned to my computer. The document still sat open like an unanswered question. I scrolled to the last page. No signature, just a highlighted field marked pending. A wave of something fierce, something sharp and electric coursed through me. I clicked reply on the original email. My fingers flew across the keyboard, each word a hammer against the quiet insult of being forgotten. Subject: formal notice of non-signature body. Please consider this written notice of my explicit refusal to sign or acknowledge the attached document in any past, present, or future form. Respectfully, Odell and Kraft. I hit send. Then I sat back, exhaled, and felt something I hadn't in weeks. Not peace, but control. She thought she'd closed the door. What she didn't realize was that I still had the key. Spotlights are for liars. The next afternoon, while sorting through a stack of unopened mail, I spotted the subject line in my inbox. Kitchley launch. Join us for an exclusive evening of innovation. No direct message, no text, no call. Just a marketing blast sent to every investor, tech influencer, and industry hanger-on who could spell the company's name. I stared at the RSVP button. My thumb hovered over the trackpad. I wasn't on the guest list, not really, but I'd made the guest list possible, so I clicked, and I showed up. The launch was held at the Barton Lux Hotel downtown, one of those modern spaces with chandeliers like glass storms frozen mid-spin. Everyone was overdressed and overeager, buzzing around the open bar, posing at step-and-repeat walls with hashtags I helped conceptualize. I took a seat in the back, far from the press cameras and even farther from Raina's carefully curated circle. No one noticed me, or they pretended not to. That part no longer surprised me. Then the lights dimmed, music rose, spotlights shifted, and there she was, Raina, wearing crimson like a warning sign, strutting onto the stage with the confidence of a woman convinced the world owed her attention. She smiled, the kind of smile you practice in front of hotel mirrors. "Thank you for being here tonight," she began, her voice a polished echo. "Kitchley is more than a product. It's my vision, my fight, my lonely nights and endless dreams. And tonight we celebrate that journey, from 0 to 10 million in 1 year." There it was, my. Not ours, not even a nod to support. Slide after slide illuminated the screen behind her. User metrics I compiled, conversion ratios I modeled, revenue projections I built from napkin notes into investor-grade numbers. I leaned forward slightly. My stomach curled, but I didn't blink. She ended the presentation with a flourish. "And none of this could have happened without the team behind me," she said, gesturing toward a table near the front. "Especially our lead engineer Mason Fexley, who built the backbone of our platform." The screen shifted. Founder, Raina Craft, Technical Advisor, Mason Fexley. No mention of CFO, no financial architect, no Odell and Craft. The room erupted in applause. People stood, whistled, cheered. I stood too, quietly, and walked out before dessert. In the lobby, I passed a woman in a velvet pantsuit scrolling her phone. She glanced up and smiled faintly. "You worked with Raina, didn't you?" I turned toward her, eyes steady. "She worked with me." Her brows lifted, a curious spark. "Interesting." She extended her hand. "Nadine Rowell, Threshold Capital." I shook it, firm. 1 week later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. "Odell and Craft?" "Yes." "This is Brenton over at Artemis Group. Just letting you know that our Angel Syndicate has withdrawn its bridge commitment to Kitchley, effective immediately. Some concerns about transparency and founding structure." I didn't say a word. He didn't expect me to. He just clicked off. That night, after Junia went to bed, I sat across from Judy in her office, a mug of mint tea in my hands and my laptop glowing in front of us. "I went," I told her. Judy looked over her glasses. "I assumed you would." She made it clear. The story's hers now. Judy sipped her tea. "Then we make room for a new story." I stared at the spreadsheet open on my screen, the same one Raina used in her deck. My name was gone from the title, but every cell still bore my logic, my framework. I closed the laptop and met Judy's eyes. "It's time I stop being an observer. I'm in this now, all the way." Signatures and silhouettes. Judy didn't speak for nearly 2 minutes. That's how I knew something was wrong. She just stared at the screen, her fingers slowly sliding across the trackpad, backing up and reloading the same contract over and over again. We were at her office, 2 coffees deep and elbows brushing piles of marked-up files. The air smelled like old carpet and determination. I leaned over and asked, "What is it?" She tapped the screen twice. This clause wasn't here before. I squinted. It was the same document. At least, it looked like the same one Raina's team had sent 3 months ago. But the paragraph near the bottom had new phrasing. "Sole operational liability shall rest with the founding entity unless altered by mutual signature." "What does that mean?" I asked, though I already felt the weight of the answer creeping in. Judy's tone sharpened. "It means if anyone tries to call her legally accountable, she can now argue she's been structurally removed from financial liability, unless we can prove the clause was added after the fact." I felt my breath catch in my throat. Raina hadn't just lied. She'd changed the rules mid-game. Judy pulled out a printed copy of the original doc I'd saved the day I received it, one without that sneaky clause. "You never signed this one, right?" she asked. "No, I remember being in a rush that morning. I meant to review it that night, but..." I shook my head. She knew I wouldn't catch it. "She gambled on your trust," Judy said flatly. "And lost," I thought. Just then my phone buzzed. An email preview slid across the top of the screen. From Bryce Mendez. Subject, "I found it." I opened it immediately. Odell and I didn't know who else to tell, but something isn't right. I ran a routine compliance cross-check and noticed a wire transfer from the Series B escrow, $1.20 million, moved to a private trust in Belize. The account is in Raina's name. She used the Cayman link structure we'd only discussed as a future hedge, never approved. Bryce. I stared at the screen, my jaw locked. The numbers sat there like coiled wire. She hadn't just edited documents. She was siphoning money from the company we both built. Judy read over my shoulder and let out a quiet exhale. "This isn't civil anymore," she said. "This is criminal exposure." I turned toward her. "We write a letter, not to Raina, to the board, to the regulators if we have to." Judy nodded and began typing. The tone of our message wasn't hysterical or emotional. It was exact. It was structured. It carried weight. We listed the discrepancies in the contracts. We attached the time-stamped versions. We included Bryce's email, redacted for confidentiality but detailed enough to raise alarms. But before she printed, I grabbed a pen and added one handwritten sentence at the bottom. "You have 7 days to correct the record, or I will." We faxed it. We emailed it. We FedExed hard copies to each board member. And then I went home, drained but laser-focused. While reheating leftover pasta for Junia's dinner, I opened her backpack to prep for school the next day. Inside, tucked between crumpled math homework and a broken crayon box, was a flyer, folded in half with the words "Women in Tech Austin" stamped across the top in bold pink. At the bottom, next to a smiling headshot of Raina in a blazer she once borrowed from me, was the caption, "Meet the trailblazing founder behind Kitchley." I let out a dry laugh. Not even rage this time, just the bitter amusement of watching someone write their own obituary and thinking it's a resume. "She still thinks this is a story she controls," I muttered. Lines she shouldn't have crossed. I was standing at the kitchen counter, rinsing strawberries for Junia's lunchbox, when my phone buzzed again. Another notification from Twitter. I wiped my hands and glanced at the screen. Kitchley founder Raina Kraft shines at Women in Tech Austin. "I never relied on anyone. Everything you see here, I built alone." The quote had gone viral. Her face was plastered under it, smiling like the universe owed her a standing ovation. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I just stared at it, letting the silence wrap around me like cold marble. Then I opened my laptop. Judy and I had already prepared the draft. We had discussed every word, measured each comma. It wasn't revenge, it was record correction. Legal, precise, and irrefutable. I clicked send. The notification was simple. I was declaring my retained financial interest in Kitchley, asserting co-ownership of specific IP used during seed and Series A funding, and formally requesting the company pause any pre-IPO legal reviews until the matter was resolved. Judy filed copies to the Delaware Secretary of State. Another packet went to the SEC's Small Company Fraud Unit, one to each board member, and, just for good measure, we delivered a certified letter to Kitchley's office. By noon, the ripple effect started. Kitchley's investor Slack channel went on lockdown. Their legal counsel posted a vague email. "We are assessing certain historical agreements as part of a transparency audit." But Raina? She doubled down. Her PR team issued a statement the same afternoon. "We categorically deny all claims. Our founder acted independently and transparently. Any assertion to the contrary is unsubstantiated and distracting." Distracting. That's what I'd become. Back home, I sat on my bed, legs folded under me, my laptop glowing. I opened a Dropbox folder I had quietly assembled over the last week. Inside were all the receipts Raina thought I wouldn't keep. The original pitch decks, metadata intact. Emails where she thanked me for structuring our series evaluation. Photos of the whiteboard we brainstormed on, with my handwriting still visible. The bank email confirming the day I co-signed the $10 million loan. I shared it privately with two journalists I knew from my early career at the hedge fund. Both now wrote freelance finance exposés for Bloomberg and Forbes. One replied within 10 minutes. "This is big. You sure you're ready for this to go public?" I typed slowly and with intention. "I'm beyond ready." The next morning, the headlines hadn't changed, but the comment sections had. Under every Kitchley tweet, the questions began appearing. Who is Odellen Kraft? Why is her name on your original Series A documents? Why did your founder say she built it alone? Within 48 hours, a Reddit thread was trending. The real architect behind Kitchley? Screenshots of my documents were being shared, analyzed, timestamped. Someone even noticed that the earliest Kitchley domain registrations were made using my old CFO firm's license. It wasn't a tidal wave, but it was a leak, one Raina couldn't plug. That night, as I was putting Junia to bed, I noticed my phone vibrating silently across the room. Blocked number. I almost let it go. But something in me needed to hear it. I answered. No voice. Just silence. Then a single line. "You should have stayed quiet. This won't end well for you." I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I just let the silence settle between us and hung up. Then I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stood by the window as the city lights flickered like static. "So this is how far she'll go," I whispered to no one. "Then so will I." Threats don't scare me. Receipts do the talking. I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed long after Junia's nightlight had clicked off, phone still in my hand, staring at that text. "You should have stayed quiet. This won't end well for you." I forwarded the screenshot to Judy before the screen even dimmed. She responded in under 5 minutes. Call me first thing, and keep your doors locked. By the time I arrived at her office the next morning, she already had printed copies of the threat and was walking me through a process I never thought I'd need. Escalation protocol? This isn't just a family feud anymore, she said, glancing at me over her glasses. This is a corporate cover-up with a personal hit list. And that's when Bryce texted me again. Just 3 words. I'm being watched. Attached was a blurry photo. His front windshield, a dark SUV idling across the street. No license plate visible. Another message came through seconds later. Can't risk anything else. Docs are in a storage unit off 183. Locker 414. Code is your birthday. Take them. Use them. Judy exhaled hard. If he's scared enough to go dark, whatever's in that locker is serious. That afternoon, while Judy drafted protective motions and contacted a private investigator, I drove out to the industrial park near the highway. Concrete lots, rows of roll-up doors, and not a soul in sight. Locker 414 creaked open. Inside, tucked inside an old briefcase under a layer of blankets, were printed bank statements, wire receipts, screenshots of Raina's offshore activity, and one file with a damning subject line. Kitchley _IP_amendments_final.docs. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about a calculated erasure of my name, signed and countersigned by people who knew better. When I returned home, Judy called again. Her voice was tight. We just received a cease and desist from Raina's legal team, accusing us of defamation, false representation, and reputational harm. I snorted. That's the legal equivalent of a temper tantrum. She's throwing everything she has, Judy added, trying to bury you in noise. Let her try, I said. Receipts cut through static. We filed our response within hours, point by point, evidence-backed, no speculation, just facts. Judy also CC'd the startup's investors and board. I made sure the subject line read, "Retained claims and IP records, for your immediate review." That night, my inbox lit up again. A journalist I had shared my Dropbox link with messaged me. Raina's team just canceled their keynote live stream for tomorrow. No reason given. But we just got a leak. Emails between her and a banker in Belize. The dates line up with Bryce's docs. I smiled. Not out of triumph, but clarity. The story was breaking, slowly but deliberately. I scrolled through Twitter, where under every Kitchley post, the comment threads had become minefields. Why is there another name on these files? Anyone seen the leaked decks? Odell and Kraft did all that. She's been erased. They're scared. And then came the notification. New email. From Raina Kraft. Subject, you win. I stared at it. I didn't click. I didn't need to read it. I'd already seen everything I needed to see. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. Not with relief, but with purpose. It's not about winning, I said out loud, more to myself than anyone. It's about remembering who built what. Courtrooms have better lighting than stages. The sun was just beginning to climb over the Austin skyline when I stepped out of the Uber and onto the curb in front of Kitchley's glass and steel headquarters. I took one long breath before walking toward the revolving doors. Judy was already there, standing beside a column in her gray suit, briefcase in hand. Her nod was short, her eyes unreadable. But I knew her well enough now to see the fight in her was locked in. The receptionist waved us through without a word. They all knew why we were here. The elevators hummed up 16 floors to the executive level, where the boardroom sat like a throne room waiting for a dethroning. The glass doors were open. Inside, the energy was tight and brittle. Every investor, some faces I recognized from early pitch calls, some new, sat lined at the oblong table like spectators at a quiet war. At the far end, Raina. Red blazer, silk blouse, lips pressed in something that was supposed to look like confidence. It didn't reach her eyes. The chair of the board stood and gestured. Miss Kraft, your floor. I opened my folder, but I didn't need to glance at it. I knew every word. I'll begin with the co-loan agreement, I said. Signed by myself and Raina Kraft. This established joint financial liability, and with it, co-control. Next, I handed out copies of the original investor decks, with document properties and timestamps embedded. These were authored by me. The projections, the strategic roadmaps, the target market segmentation, all mine. Judy passed down a forensic timeline, emails, message logs, flagged account changes. I stopped when we reached the wire receipts. These show $1.2 million redirected to a Belizean trust account. This happened before the Series B close and without board knowledge. Gasps weren't loud, but they were real. I watched as one investor leaned into another and whispered, "She was the backbone all along." Then came the moment. The board chair cleared his throat. "Miss Kraft, thank you. Miss Raina Kraft, your response?" Raina stood too quickly. Her papers clattered. She didn't bother to pick them up. "She's twisting everything. She never cared about the company, just wanted credit. I worked every night, every weekend. I was the face." No one said a word. "She's trying to rewrite the story like some bitter ghost," Raina snapped. "Correction," Judy said calmly from her chair. "She's writing her name back into the story she was erased from." Silence again. This time it lingered. The board chair nodded slowly. Then he turned to the investors on the call and said, "We've reviewed the documentation. Effective immediately, Raina Kraft will step down as CEO." Raina didn't sit back down. She just stood there, stunned. O'Dellin Kraft's ownership stake will be reinstated and publicly acknowledged. The IPO is postponed pending a full financial audit. Judy squeezed my elbow gently. "This is everything we asked for?" I nodded, though inside I felt no elation. Just stillness. This wasn't about trophies or titles. It was about returning something that should never have been taken in the first place. An hour later, the public statement went live. Kitchley's website updated. I watched as the founder bio page was changed, finally including my name. Outside, as we exited through the front lobby, a cluster of press waited by the sidewalk. A young reporter stepped forward, mic extended. "Miss Kraft, if you could speak to your younger self watching all this happen, what would you tell her?" I paused, not for drama, but because it was the first time I actually felt the weight of the years it had taken to get here. I looked straight into the camera. "Next time someone asks you to sign," I said evenly, "ask them who's signing for you." They took my credit. I took back my voice. By the time I made it home from the hearing, the wind had shifted. Autumn was behind us. The leaves no longer danced. They clung low to the ground, and for the first time in months, I let myself rest in the quiet. 3 months had passed since the boardroom confrontation. Kitchley was still operational, but under full audit. Raina had disappeared from every feed, every magazine, every event lineup. And as for me, I wasn't chasing spotlights anymore. I was chasing warmth. Junia and I started taking weekend walks again. There's a little park just 4 blocks from the apartment with a single wooden bench by the duck pond. It's not fancy, but it's ours. That morning I watched her zip down the slide, her laughter echoing off the metal. My coffee had gone cold in my hand, but I didn't mind. For once, I didn't need caffeine to feel alert. Across my phone screen was a headline that had gone viral overnight. Kitchley confirms co-founder's role after legal battle. O'Dellin Kraft reinstated. Underneath, in bold, Kraft, the vision behind the visionary. The byline was from a journalist I once mentored. I smiled. The article wasn't flashy, it was honest. A straightforward recounting of what had been done, what had been hidden, and what had been taken back. No bitterness, just clarity. There was a brief mention of Raina at the end. No comment. The IRS was reportedly reviewing the offshore accounts. The SEC had opened a preliminary inquiry, and while the world speculated, I finally didn't care. Investors began circling again. Ones who had once ignored my emails, now eager to discuss new ventures. But I told them all the same thing. I built something once. It was stolen. Now I'm building peace. That afternoon, Junia came running toward me from the playground, gripping a colorful poster board smeared with glue and glitter. "Mom, look what I made for my project." It read, "Women I Admire." And right below a photo of Michelle Obama was me. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. My hand found the back of her head as I pulled her close, inhaling her coconut-scented curls. I didn't cry out of sadness this time. It was something deeper. Gratitude that she saw me not through what was taken, but what I rebuilt. That night, I received a voicemail from my parents. My father's voice, distant, like he wasn't quite sure he wanted to be heard. We saw the news. We're proud of how you handled everything. Raina? Well, she made mistakes. No apology, just ambiguity dressed in pride. I didn't call back. Some silences I'd learned deserved to stay unbroken. Later, I sat on the couch with a blanket wrapped around my legs, laptop open, email refreshed. There it was, a message from Raina. Subject line: I hope one day you'll forgive me. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Instead, I whispered aloud, soft enough that only the quiet walls could hear. I already did, but I won't forget. Because forgiveness, I realized, isn't always about absolving someone. Sometimes it's about setting down the weight they refuse to carry. I closed my laptop, turned off the lamp, and looked out the window. Downtown Austin flickered with holiday lights, but for once I wasn't looking for a stage. I had everything I needed: my daughter, my name, and peace. Sometimes the people closest to us rewrite the truth, not because it's accurate, but because it's easier to erase than admit who really showed up. O'Dellen's journey is a reminder that credit may be stolen, trust may be broken, but character? That's something no one can take from you. Have you ever been overlooked or underestimated by your own family? How did you handle it? Drop your story or thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And if you found yourself rooting for O'Dellen, don't forget to subscribe. There are more stories coming that will stir your heart, and maybe even help you reclaim your own voice. See you in the next one.